Okay, so I would like to call the meeting to order. This is the 6th through 8th grade Social Studies Primary Resource Selection Committee public meeting, and it is 5:01 p.m. So to start us off, just a reminder of our purpose and outcomes. We are recommending resources that will support and enrich the curriculum, taking into consideration varied interests, abilities, learning styles, and maturity levels of students served. And we're also recommending resources that will stimulate growth in factual knowledge, critical analysis of differing sides of issues, literary appreciation, aesthetic values, and recognition of various societal values. We will place principle above personal opinion and reason above prejudice in the recommendation of our resources of the highest quality in order to assure a comprehensive collection of resources appropriate for the complete education of all students. Our next agenda item is a vendor showcase from McGraw-Hill Social Studies, and I'm going to turn it over to them. They will be showcasing the McGraw-Hill Social Studies resources and also providing training to our teachers on how to use those resources during the teacher pilot. All you, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks for having us this afternoon, and thank you all for being here. My name is Carrie Guy. I am the local secondary rep, so 6th through 12th grade for McGraw-Hill Education, and Ann Stagliano is my K-5 partner. We will be supporting you through this process, and our main voice of this evening will be Mr. Kevin Eddington, who will be providing the training. He is one of our social studies specialists. So thanks so much, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Carrie. Good evening, everybody. Now, thank you. Now, I don't know where the camera is.
It's back there, so
okay.
Don't worry, you do your thing.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. You always you're always told don't turn your back to the camera, okay? But I just want to talk to my audience, okay? So I can tell that at least one of you is incredibly excited about being here this evening, and hopefully that infectious nature carries throughout the entire sort of cascades throughout the whole entire room tonight, okay? One thing that I do want to do is not to overwhelm you with too much, even though that you're sitting in literally a library of books right now, okay? I want to be able just to show you what's most practical and pragmatic, also giving you a little bit of wiggle room to find your own things that you love to see as a history social studies teacher, okay? I'm glad that you have your teacher's editions and at least the inquiry journal right there in front of you. So let me just walk through a couple of things for you right now. And I was able to do this for you a couple of moments ago. So one of the things that I do want to do, if I could just use your book as a frame of reference for us this evening, is, and I'm just going to go through the teacher's edition first, okay? So your teacher's edition, number 1, this beautiful magisterial tome, is also found online as well, too. So you don't have to worry about lugging it back and forth between home and work, okay? Now, every single one of your chapters is always going to open up with some sort of lesson planning page right over here, okay? Once again, all these items are certainly online for you as well. So everything that is in print is online. However, not everything that is online is in print. So I want to be incredibly transparent about the unidirectional nature of the resources and your accessibility to said resources, okay? So you always have right up front your learning objectives, okay? What are we walking away with from that student perspective right up front, okay? And you're right where you need to be, right over here, perfect, okay? The pacing guide, just giving you a heads up in terms of how long the chapters or the topics are designed to last. So when we say one day, we assume that you have 50 minutes of instructional class period time, okay? Hopefully that's plus or minus what you have right now. Is it? Okay, perfect, okay? This program was built exactly just for you here, okay, in Liberty, okay? We built it just for you, okay, just for you, okay? All right, now beyond that, at the very bottom, you have your key or your legend telling you what the resources are and what are they denoting, okay? Next, I'll turn the page, And the first thing that you're going to see is your series of assessments. All right. Now, I will say this. All of your assessments are also found online as well. Okay. Is anybody in the room familiar with ExamView Test Generator by chance? Yes? Okay. Perfect. Okay. This does the exact same thing that ExamView did. Okay. Now, ExamView was kind of like the gold standard or the Cadillac of assessments roughly 10, 15 years ago. Okay. Now, taking that idea of ExamView, and now every single publisher does have their own series of assessment sort of engines. But the nice thing about all of our assessments is that everything in there is customizable and editable. And the nice thing about that is you can also share assessments between schools or between your whole entire district as well. The nice thing also about your assessments is that all of the assessments, if they're closed-ended, such as a yes, no, true, false, or multiple choice response, all those resources will be graded for you instantaneously, and the data will be sent back to you aggregated as such. Okay. Beyond the scope of just those assessments, you also have access to your inquiry. Okay. So for every single topic, and I'll use the term topic and chapter interchangeably this evening, regardless of your chapter or topic, you will always have access to, number one, a project-based learning activity. So inquiry is never left as an afterthought, but it's always going to be deeply interwoven throughout the entire scope of while you and your students are actually in the given topics. Okay? Now, that's the first place that we go when we talk about inquiry. The other place that we also talk about inquiry this evening is also in what's known as your inquiry journal, which don't touch yours, okay? We found here as well, okay? Now, your inquiry journal takes that idea of inquiry and moves it into another level, another sort of direction. And this is one of the main takeaways that as you're piloting, I want you to be able to utilize throughout your time while you're actually using the materials. The nice thing about the inquiry journal, teachers, is that it is digitized as well. So in case that you didn't go for it in paper, albeit this is a consumable, you want to use it digitally, you do have that as an option as well. Okay. Now, between your student edition, which has embedded inquiry lessons automatically there, and if you thumb through it and you ever see a magenta awning, that's going to denote that that is indeed an inquiry-based activity. So for every topic, we always oscillate between the blue awnings, which is basically learning history or learning civics. And then the magenta awnings, just like you have right there, okay, is indeed an actual inquiry activity. So in between, perfect. Correct. There, and then when you get in here, just as a heads up, okay, then you'll see inquiry activity. So the color coordination of the text makes a lot of sense. Sure. That's okay. Whatever color you want it to be. If you're colorblind, it can be 50 Shades of Gray too. Okay. All right. Okay. Either way, however you want to dissect it, color-wise on the color wheel, we give you those access to those resources. Okay.
We are a tough group.
I can tell. I can tell. All right. It's gonna be a long pilot. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. All right. Okay. So as I said, we move between the blue awnings of teaching history. The magenta awnings, the coral awnings for you, kind sir, is going to be how your students are going to do history or interact with history. And so you move back and forth between the two, okay? Now, between the magenta awnings in the book as well as the inquiry journal, your students will have, with McGraw-Hill, at least 400 primary sources. And that's our guarantee and that's our commitment for every single grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 400 primary sources, okay? Now, beyond the scope of those resources, I'll give you the opportunity to look through different opportunities for differentiation, okay? So probably some of us in this room this evening have more what I like to call fragile readers in our classrooms, okay? So everything that's in the student edition is really built around how do I provide access for my students. Okay, so in here, since you're right over here, how do I reach my approaching grade level students? Automatically embedded. Same thing with our more global international students. And then finally, taking a look at our resources for our gifted and our talented population as well. So we do what we can to cover the gamut of students that are in your classroom, okay? All right, I know I've given you a lot right now in the last 10 minutes or so. What I want to do is let me give you the opportunity to look through the very beginning. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. So let me give you an opportunity to go through at least the front matter of, the beginning of your chapters, so to speak. Okay. And what I'm looking for is that while you're in your chapters, or topics rather, it's those interleaf pages, those A through E, A through G pages. Okay. So I'll give you all a couple minutes to do that while I decide what am I doing with my computer. Okay. Say it again. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Okay. Oh, by the way, if you haven't taken down the username and the password that's on the screens, I'm going to encourage you to do that right now. Make sure the NASS is capitalized in the password.
Yeah, they were all saying.
Did we change this?
Not that I know of,
Yeah.
but
Says your username or password is incorrect.
I have another one for middle school social studies.
Okay.
But I can, yeah, just give me a second.
So if this is all just US, we would need to supplement a little bit prior to how,
Can you re-say that in the mic?
Sorry, we were just talking about how we need to get into imperialism and industrial revolution after Christmas. And the imperialism that we're looking at is from the Europe perspective because of the whole scramble for Africa and how that fed into World War I. And so we're just curious, this looks like it's all US history. And so we're trying to see if there is any sort of global world history as far as the imperialism time period in 7th grade curriculum. Because that's where our units and our standards fall.
Yeah, so one of the options that we have for 6th and 7th grade, thank you, I'm sorry. Because the Arizona standards are different from the rest of the universe, we have we had our custom team make an option for us where your 6th and 7th grade teachers and students can have access to both US and world. So I don't have a good name for it. I'm calling it the mega course because it gives you both at the same time. And that way teachers, you can pull from you can pull from the other levels. Yeah.
so this, in my book, it has imperialism 1800 to 1914 as an inquiry lesson. It's under the chapter of society and industry. So we would definitely, if this were, we would definitely kind of need a little bit of both. Yeah.
Well, we have that access during the pilot
Oh,
because that's where we need it is like right now when
Okay.
we come back.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then do we need to have 6th grade materials instead of 7th grade materials?
So the good news is we have extras that I was going to load in my car. So we'll shuffle some things. Let me
Okay.
I don't think we have enough because I need 3 sections of 7th grade, which is actually now I think going into 6th grade, is what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Sixth grade is going to need to be used in seventh grade
Right.
for imperialism.
But I don't have enough textbooks here for 3 sections.
Okay.
3 additional sections. But I'm thinking Kevin can also show us how to access those materials online,
Correct.
which might be a workaround until we get the physical materials.
Well, and I can even get away with like 12 books if I've got 24 to 28 students. I can have kids sharing them.
Okay.
I don't have to have a full class set necessarily.
Are you saying with that? Okay, well then we may be able to do that. You guys just wouldn't have your TEs yet. So if we could get 3 additional.
World
Yep.
TEs. Okay. And let me check my car.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, so we can get more sent in. Digital, we can get you on immediately. So yeah, problem solving, yes.
But I do think we need to pay attention tonight, right, to what's going to cross over between 6th and 7th grade, and even 7th to 8th, if that's happening too.
Does that mean that we ought to rewrite the units? Like looking into next year?
It could mean we could rewrite
And shift stuff?
but you cannot change standards.
Right.
So let's just make sure
Yeah.
we're paying attention to that.
Right. Okay.
That was one of the things that I was saying was that we could utilize one of the books and cross over from 6th to 7th grade and into 8th grade, honestly, for like Cold War.
I have a couple of other districts that are doing exactly that right now, and that's why we created it for Arizona. So we can work it out. We just want to, let's make sure that you like the materials and that you like how it's laid out. And beyond that, we can problem solve for
I just
sure.
want to be able to have a good feedback for you because we have what we need when we come back. I want to give a valid evaluation. That's all. Thank you.
We appreciate
awesome.
that.
We
Thank
definitely
you.
want to get you what you need.
All right. So a lot of you said that you weren't able to get in using the demo account that I had on the screen. Carrie, you said that you had a different username and password. Okay. No. It's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. I know there's a lot that's going on right now. Okay. So this is what I did have. Okay. And I'll wait for Carrie to give me other instructions. But certainly the website is my .mh period mh dot.
This link, the link is on our student page. It's called Wonders, and that's our K-ELA program. So for the students, they can't go through Clever yet, they can go through the student page. So link to the website once we get everything on.
I'm just gonna show. Did it work? I mean, I know you said it didn't work. There. And then down below, same thing.
Kevin, do you care if I add it onto your?
Don't care, I'll care. I think this is a good time for somebody to have some of these beautiful cupcakes.
Vicki brought those for everybody. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Vicki.
Okay, so try the bottom one. I did try it on my computer and it did let me in. So as long as I didn't make a typo transferring it up there, you should be good to go. Yes.
Okay. If that's in, then I will leave. What I have.
High school is
12. Okay. All right. This wouldn't be a bad idea for you to write this down or even take a picture of it with your smartphone.
capturing this audio.
Okay. I see people logging in. Just going to walk around being everybody's like reference for you. I will say, I believe you said that you have Clever in the district. Okay. If and when you do integrate with us, we can just link back up into your integration so you don't have to worry about usernames and passwords for students. Okay. The cool thing about it, Clever, is that it'll be on a nightly feed, so you don't have to worry about adding or removing students ever into the system. So if you have a brand new student in your classroom on Tuesday, just wait till Wednesday, and it will automatically be in your classroom. That's for the lifetime of your adoption. Okay? All right. Is everybody in? Were you able to get in on this back table? You all are good? Sweet. Okay. I'm going to minimize this, and we'll spend the rest of our time actually in the online platform and capabilities. That's where the most bang is for tonight. Okay? So once you're actually in, let me just go back. I was going to go through world history tonight, but obviously you go to, when you log in, you get My Programs. And you should have something very similar to what I have over here, okay? And certainly find whichever text you will be piloting. So you one civics, okay? So it's top left option, right over there.
And if seventh grade is going to be using the unit for World, just click on that one and
Go into World and let's see what that'll look like, Darcy and Vicky.
So the first one is voice and perspective. That's full survey, right over there. We always start off with full survey first, and then different districts have different needs. So let's just go from, I forget the breakdown of world history. Like, I think infancy of humanity, basically almost like Tanzania, Olduvai Gorge-esque, and then basically moving on through, let's say, the Crusades is just a rough park. All right, still same content, just break things down in a much more instrumental fashion. Okay. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to go through voices and perspectives for middle school world history right over here, bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Okay, so open that up. And the first thing that you'll be greeted with tonight is your main landing page. So this is something that you're going to see every single time you log in. Okay? So I'm going to go through a couple of things first, and then I'll give you all time to explain. Now, I heard from my teacher friend over here. We've become best of friends in the last 30, 45 she's very, very excited to have access to these brand new resources. Okay? Invariably, there's something in here tonight that you are dying to look at. Okay? Now, I won't get through everything tonight, but one thing I'm going to encourage you to do your best to stay along with me. Okay? If you decide to go down your own rabbit hole, that's your own choice. Having said that, it's also your responsibility to come back to me and find your own way back. Okay? So do we understand the rules of engagement tonight?
Got it.
Awesome. Good. That usually scares teachers at the very beginning. Okay. All right. So while we're here on the home screen, the first thing I'm going to share with you, number one, is your ebook options right over here to the right. So this is from that student perspective. Okay. Now you're students, and you have student editions and all of these books right over here. Okay. Same thing from print. You have that online. Okay. Obviously, with a lot more additional features online, such as your entire student edition does have audio accompaniments to it. The entire student edition is read out loud. Okay. In addition to, you also have your digital inquiry journal as well, which mirrors exactly what's in front of you in print. Okay. And so we want to make this as approachable as possible. Okay. The last thing I'll share with you in terms of access is that there is indeed an app that accompanies the student edition. The nice thing about the app is that your students can download per chapter onto their smartphone their entire student edition. So in a word, there's no more excuses for your students. Okay? If they would prefer to read from their smartphone, or even here in Liberty, if you allow that, that is certainly an option. Okay? But it's nice to have access to readings without an internet connection, but still from that digitized perspective. Okay. Now, when I move down into the bottom resources, let's go down to additional resources down below. Lots of good things here. Okay. I'm not going to get up in the weeds right now. Okay. I'll let you all figure that out. Okay. But one thing that I want to pause on right now are two things, and that's BTW and Election Central. Okay. With BTW, what that is, this is our current events blog. And so when you invest with McGraw-Hill, we have and will future-proof our platform for you. Okay? So if it's been, let's say, 13 years since your last adoption, making up a number, okay? Or not, okay. Okay. If it's been some time since your last adoption, okay? Who's counting at this point? It's okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Here with BTW, we always add brand new content that's contemporary speaking, if not once, if not twice a week. Okay, bare minimum, once a week you'll have brand new content. Okay, so let's click on BTW right now, because something I really want to show you. I'm always excited to talk about BTW. Okay, so I'm going to BTW right now. Click on that. All right, we'll give this a moment to load. And there are tons of resources in here. Okay, all right. Now, when you scroll through, you'll see our dates, okay, in terms of how long. You know, as I said, we update this at least once, if not twice a week. Okay, tons of great things here. It's just a great way for you to say, have some sort of interaction with what's going on. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go through all the tabs in BTW tonight, but one of the ones that I also really like in here is it's called You Decide. If you find the You Decide and step on it at the really top, you know, click on You Decide. And the cool thing about You Decide is that we are giving your students the opportunity to have a little more voice or agency on these topics. Okay? And so how do we maximize that student voice in our classrooms? Okay, so in this one, this was just done sometime last week. Should the U.S. let me just get my cursor out of the way. Should the U.S. lower the voting age to 16? Okay, it's a very interesting topic. Let's go ahead and literally click on it, open it up, and you're going to see an article, roughly max 500 words or so, just to give you a rough ballpark of length and duration. Okay, scrolling on down, you have your pros and cons, your yeses and your nos, and when your students vote, they'll see how they line up with all students across the nation. Okay, so it's not just what's going on in your district here or in the classroom, but you're part of a national sort of conversation as well. Right. So this is just, as I said, one of the nice things about BTW. All of the articles are archived, so they're never ever deleted. So you can take advantage of what we've done when we started this back in, let's say, okay? All right. Other thing that I want to share with you this evening, go back up to the top. Let's go into Election Central right now. Now, Election Central, let's say, this might favor my U.S. history teachers this evening a little bit more than anybody else. Okay. Now, when I move on into Election Central, it is a one-stop shop for everything related to American electoral politics. So, what's going on? This also benefits citizens, obviously. Okay. So, like I said, it's literally your one-stop shop for everything that is related to what's going on in American electoral politics. Now, when you get into Election Central, I'll say this. Election Central is not going to sway your students one party or the next. Okay? We're going to do what we can just to provide. If it's not opening, it says have trouble. Let's open this up in a new tab. Okay. Click on Election Central. We might be updating it right now. Okay. But as I talk about it, and it's also slow on my end as well, it is a one-stop shop for American electoral politics. And so we're not here to sway a student between one party and the next. That's not our purpose. ever at McGraw-Hill. Okay, we just want to be able to provide some in terms of government, and let your students decide which way that they want to sort of move. Okay, all right. You're getting an error. Okay, we might be updating it right now. Okay, so not plenty of time for pilot to come back to it, but at least just wanted to show you what is available for us this evening. Okay. All right, so let's go back into our home screen right now. Let's go back into the home screen right now, and let's click on the arrow at the very beginning, or rather the middle of the home page, in terms of where you want to go, in terms of browsing your course. Okay. Now, I do believe everybody in here has their quote-unquote marching orders in terms of what they're going to be piloting. I know for 6th grade, you're doing China, 7th grade, imperialism, plus or minus, and then for my 8th grade in civics, remind me what you're looking at.
Civil rights.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here, you can go down and find your respective topics. Okay, and like I said, we use the terms topics and chapters interchangeably with one another. Okay, so when I move on down the line, I will go to topic number 7 in 6th grade right now. Okay? And when you click on the arrow right at the topic level, you're going to see all the resources that go along with it. Okay? First things first is going to be your inquiry journal. If I lost anybody, look up like a deer in headlights and I'll come on. Okay? All right. Okay. Right.
Because I see a lot of
Okay.
So is this demo? Is this 6th grade?
That is 6th grade.
Okay, so I'm looking more at
Topic number 7. Go to 7, early China. Drops on down, and now you see all the things that go along with it. Okay? So click on that arrow right up front. First thing you're going to see is your inquiry journal, which lives and serves, as I said, as a nice counter supplemental piece that goes along with your student edition. And then when you go through, you'll also see your lessons. Okay? Right. Perfect. You're on your own island over here. Okay. Right. Okay. So while I'm here, I'm going to bypass the inquiry journal right now. And even before I get into the lessons, now I'm just going to click on just the topic right over here. Okay, so I'm going to start basically at the chapter or topic level. Okay, so just clicking on my topic. Okay. Click on the topic. Yeah, just the words where it says, topic 7, 8, 12, etc., etc. And this is going to give you access to all of the things that you need, teacher planning. So big picture, what's going to be found in your teacher's edition. Okay? Your teacher interleaf pages will be found here as well. Okay? So when I go into the teacher planning, I have my pacing guide, which we looked at a couple of moments ago in your teacher's edition, as well as your learning objectives as such. Let me give teachers a couple of minutes to look through these resources so you can see what this looks like, feels like right now.
Is it only in Microsoft Word?
That is these resources right over here. Yeah.
But is there a way to? I don't think they have that. Do they?
You have to download it and then upload it into Google Drive. You should preview it. When I clicked on the preview.
Preview it. It'll show up in the web browser.
So they don't have to download it.
No, you can just click on.
Are you guys seeing it when you click on it?
Yeah. If you decide to download it, then it'll show up as a Microsoft Word document, and that's most advantageous if I want to make any modifications to it.
So take that into consideration.
As you peruse, I'll just give you one second. Go through this. You're going to see, knowledge in terms of what your students will be walking away, what skills they're also going to be walking away with as well. Okay. In addition to that, your pacing guide, length, duration of this topic. Okay. Right, pretty concise in terms of those resources. Okay. Now, beyond the scope of just what you have available for you for the teachers, at top, below that is going to be the topic resources. And this is one way that we can access the student. I'll show you how to access it in another way, which is going to be even more advantageous. Now, the other thing that I do want to share with you tonight, this is a big takeaway, is what's known as the Smart Book. I'll talk about the Smart Book in abstract, but then we'll go through it tonight just to show you what it looks like in a concrete manner. Okay? The nice thing about the Smart Book is that we developed this Smart Book initially for higher ed. Because what happened in higher ed is that students came back to us in the 6-12 market and said, there's a lot of reading that needs to be done in higher ed. We're having a hard time getting through the reading. What's important? Okay? So what the Smart Book does, the Smart Book highlights for your students the most essential components of the student edition. On this very topic, at the same time, the student edition will be highlighted. This is what grounds your students' attention. This is all I have to read right now. It's also going to provide an adaptive report and a series of quiz questions solely based on those highlights. So this literally maximizes your students' time and attention while they're actually in the student edition. And also gives you, I said, tons of great granular details and reports for us. Okay? I'll show you how to sign that on out tonight. Okay? And then down below that, let me see what else do we have. Spanish resources, right over here. The student edition is in Spanish. And then the final thing I will share with you at the very bottom of the screen is the teacher access. So let's just say that there's something that you do with the Great Wall of China every single year, or the Boxer Rebellion. You want to add it into the system. Underneath the teacher added resources, just click on it, and it'll ask you, where do you want it to be drawn from? Okay, do you want to pull it from your own computer, or let's say if you have a G Drive link that you want to share it to. So you can just basically add your own resources into the platform. Okay? All right, so that is chapter level or topic level big picture. I'm next going to move down past the topic. I'll move past the inquiry journal, and we'll go into a lesson right now. Okay, so scroll up to the
Can I
top.
ask a question really quick?
Absolutely.
For the student handbook, I noticed that it said Lexile. We use Achieve, so will it translate that so that it knows what each of the students' Lexile levels is, or is that something that we would input?
You'll have to input that. So what happens is that you can go into the student roster over here on the left. Okay, you can go into the student roster here on the left. Oops. Okay. All right. Go into the roster. You find your student. You can edit said student and scroll on down. And you can change on out that Lexile level for what we have for the students. Okay. The cool thing about this is you do it once. I'm sorry? These are the two available Lexile level ranges that we have for the student edition. Okay? And the nice thing about this is that you can set it once, and it'll remember that for the whole entire year. So in a word, you can quote set it and forget it. Okay? All right. But let me go back to where I am. Okay? So like I said, I'm going to move on over into one of my lessons right now. And I'll move on over into lesson 1. So while we're here at lesson 1, once again, same idea or topic, rather organization, okay? Teacher planning, lesson resources, assessments, etc. Okay? So let's move right now into the lesson resources. Right now. Right. And so while I'm underneath my lesson resources right now, first things first, move on over into where it says the interactive student edition. Okay. Very first option on the left-hand side of the screen underneath lesson resources, interactive student edition. Okay. Now when I click on said student edition right now, go ahead and give this a moment to load. Okay. You're where you're at. Okay. 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 You're in Revolutions and Empires? Okay. So let's go into the lesson 1 right now. Okay. Now we're going to go down to lesson resources here. And my interactive student edition. Right over here on the left. Okay. Do you see how I got here? Okay. All right. Don't be bashful. In case you need me to get this one more time. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So while we're in here, opening up student editions, okay, this is identical to what you would find in the actual print student edition. You see page numbers referenced on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side of the page. Okay? Now, as we continue to scroll through and cascade through student edition, a lot of things I want to point out to you which are of interest tonight. Okay? Number 1 is you go through, from time to time you will see not only pictures and other primary sources, questions, but also the scope of our questions and our maps. Okay? Right. So you'll see your series of guiding questions in addition to your maps. Okay? So let me see if I can find a question first. Okay. See that compelling question. Okay? So I'm going to go through and just scroll on down till you get to a compelling question, which is going to be of paramount importance. That is basically going to be the framework that we build off of for the entire chapter or topic. Okay? Now, beyond the scope of those compelling questions, and you also have a timeline right down below. So the timeline down below is going to serve as a series of signposts in terms of what's going to be important for us to be able to draw from throughout our time while we're in this chapter or topic. All right. Now, one thing I also want to share with you in your student editions and the teacher's editions, really, while we're online, are the maps. Okay. Now, does anybody still have one of those old school layered atlases that you pull down? You know exactly where I was going with that. Okay. You do? You still have it? Okay. All right. We're going to take that idea of that old school atlas and move it on over into the digital age. Okay? So whenever you see a map and it's interactive, you put the interactive version of the map, open it right up front. Okay? So if you just click on the map, it'll be flat. Okay? So if you just minimize that, over there, okay? I hear your joy over there, which is beautiful to hear. Okay? Yeah, you can just close into this one. Right there, close on that X. And then, oh, okay, if you go find it in your student edition, if you find it through the student edition right over there, there'll be a space at the top that says interactive, okay? Now, there's lots of things that you can do with your maps, okay? But the cool thing about this is if I just need to help my students understand geography, okay? Do you see, if you have this one very similar to me, you might see a ruler on the left-hand side of the screen underneath those tools. Okay? Find the ruler on the left, click the ruler, and go to the one in the middle for distance. Okay? Now, right over here, do you want to show distance in terms of miles, kilometers, feet, meters, or yards? Okay? I'm just going to go through miles. And so let's just say that I want to go from, southern India, right over here, all the way to, let's say, Korea. Okay? Okay? So if I was traveling in a straight line, a little bit over 3,300 miles. Okay? So that's one of the nice ways about taking that idea of the old school atlas and moving it into a much more digital-friendly sort of environment. Okay? All right. Lots of things to show you, but this is one of the main things I kind of want to have you have as a takeaway. Okay? All right. So when I go back into my student edition, like I said, we have our questions that we can always assign on out to students. And I'll show you how to assign those questions on out to our students moving forward. Okay? Right. Top of the page, you can move literally into the next page, so to speak, at the top, and we'll just cascade on down the line. All right. Now, one of the things that I will also share with you, yeah, go ahead. Okay, just okay, yes, yeah, and you can just click on the X right there, and you can go. Yeah, so I'm just going to go through two. So the very first intro kind of introduces the top. And then when you go through, looking at, in this instance, early childhood socialization, just gives you a better sense of the objectives. Okay? One thing that I will share with you is that every single lesson will always start off with a reading strategy, a graph organizer. You will always find that as a constant in each and every one of the lessons. Okay? The nice thing about this is that every single one of your lessons is going to have a different reading strategy. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach for your students. So our authors looked at the content and then later matched it with the graphic organizers just to make things a little bit easier for your students. Okay? Right, I'm going to show you two other things, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes of structure. Okay? The two other things I want to share with you, I heard the okay? The two other things I'm going to share with you is on the right-hand side of the screen, is look for the snowman. So look for Frosty right over here. Okay? See Frosty?
Okay.
Okay. So when you look at the snowman on the right-hand side of the screen, two things I'm going to share with you. We've also referred to these as kebabs as well. Okay? So different times of the year in different regions, this could be a kebab, but since we're so close to Christmas, I thought I would call it Frosty. Okay? All right. So on the snowman or the kebab, it is dinner time. I understand that. Okay? You do have the option of taking a look at the Lexile level. Okay? That's purely for preview purposes. Okay? Well, like I shared with you a couple of moments ago, you can set that up for your students, and they'll have access to that every single time moving forward. Okay? Right. The nice thing about the Lexile levels, I'll say this, Miss, is that they're not summaries by any stretch of the imagination. Okay? It's a simple reworking of the text 1 to 2 grade levels below. Here, there's a heavier emphasis on simple sentence structure versus compound or even complex sentence structure. Okay? You'll get literally the exact same content, just reworded in a different manner that's simply much more approachable. Okay? All right, other things I'm also going to share with you is I'm going to take my cursor, drag it across a piece of text, okay, release, okay, and you should see this bar. Okay? One thing you can do is if you wanted to add a note or simply add a highlight, you can do that, okay? But if I add a note, you can save that, okay? So every single time you log in, you have that, okay? Also, the entire student edition is read out loud for you as well, okay? If you just simply highlight a section, it will just read that section, or you can take advantage of the menu on the right-hand side of the page, and it'll read out the whole entire page for you, okay? All right. I know I've given you a lot. Now it's your turn to kick the tires. Set a timer right now, okay, of structured playtime, okay? So your 5 minutes of structured playtime starts now.
This is anxiety building this time.
Oh, it's only just designed to keep me on. No. There is a very loud button that goes off at the end of it.
I have a question. When I answer these scaffolded very important questions that I get done, does the teacher see a list of the answers to them, or like?
Yeah, so as a teacher, you can look at every single student's responses or submissions. The nice thing about it is that when I assign it, I can assign out this to just one individual page. Okay? So that's going to maximize your time too. Okay? So case in point, if this is on page 248. I'm just making up a number. Okay? I can only assign, if I only decide to assign 248, I don't have to scroll through the whole entire textbook to figure out where students actually fill out their submissions. Literally just go down the line. And so you can.
It doesn't go like to the spreadsheet or something, and then I go good. No.
It won't be nearly as linear as that, but it will be broken down by student. So the best parallel I can make is that if you had a stack of alphabetized papers right next to you, you would look at one student, go down the list, grade, put that to the side, and then go down to the next student, go down the list, and grade, et cetera, that way.
In that page number. So I have to go to page 65 to look at the response section.
Well, that is true, but I will say this. When you assign it, you don't have to click to page 65. That page will automatically be there for the assignment. Correct. So you don't have to manually type in 65 or try to remember 65. It'll automatically be there for you. Yeah, let me. Okay. I know I did this on my own personal account, and I can show you what that'll look like in terms of how to. Because before we leave tonight, I will log in as a teacher, assign things on out, and I'll show you what it looks like on your end, just as it simulate that.
Can you assign
Oh, that's so
them
cool.
in
So like
Google
one,
Classroom?
okay.
You can.
So
So,
you do 3 tabs, now you have
okay,
a forest.
thank you. Yeah.
And you see it? Are you on that page?
Later on, just keep it in your.
Okay.
So if you do 1, it's a tree. You multiply by 3, it's a forest.
Oh,
That's kind of
I'm
cool.
working my way towards
So I
it.
have a question
Yes.
about this. So I am in here, but it doesn't let me open this. Is it just because it's more surface level?
Well, you're in the student preview right here, so you can just click out of the closed student preview.
Yeah, I kind of like this. Like, there's so many resources.
Mhm.
Okay.
So which one do you want to look at?
I
Walk
don't
me
really
through.
know. I'm open to whatever.
Okay. So cool thing about this is that all the resources down below are automatically in the student edition right over
Okay.
here. Okay. So our logic is, when you are presenting, you see the presentation, it's already been added to the presentation. What these resources correspond to what's in the student edition.
Oh, nice.
So there's no slippage between what am I reading and the visual. Okay. So everything goes back to
So you can
overlap.
assign to the specific students if you choose to, but you can also present it.
Sure. So case in point, if I want to assign out, the map, I'll click the assign. I'll show everybody how to do this.
Okay.
But I have my map. Start date and end date is pretty straightforward. If you want to allow late,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So you can click on this, and you can select what students that you want, what students you don't want, graded or ungraded. Okay?
Oh, cool.
What type of assignment, and then you click the assign button. Okay?
Nice.
Now, since we're in the demo account, we limit that sort of capability. But before we leave tonight, I will show you how to assign and grade work.
Awesome, thank you.
I hope this was helpful.
Oh, this is awesome.
Good.
There's a caramel, there's a turtle, like caramel and like some, what kind is that?
Substitute or with and. That's one of my really good friends. A really good piece of advice he gave to me. Of course you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Will it also read the questions aloud?
It'll read everything from the top to bottom. Now,
Like if I just want to have this question
that'll read right there. Okay. Okay. I just close that before. Let me go back to your question. Yeah. So literally, if you just highlight that. It's odd.
Unless you want the chocolate, that was good too. Oh my god, it's so good.
That was chocolate raspberry.
Sometimes my kiddos have a hard time. I'm a sped teacher, so my kids can't read the questions either.
I'm sure ready to break you from what your business.
Yeah, I got that. It'll read everything except this. It should. Okay. Yeah. Now, I will also say this. When we're in the assessment, there is a space for read out loud for the questions too,
Yes.
which is also another nice feature as well.
Okay.
That we do have that as a
Okay.
sort of comparable kind of
Okay.
piece. Okay? All right. So let me back away from the student edition. Okay. Are there any questions about the student edition before I kind of depart from it? Okay. Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Any questions about the student edition?
When you assign something and they're answering the questions,
Mm-hmm.
then will we need to go, do I need to speak into the mic?
When you assign something and the students are answering those questions, do we then have to go in individually, each child, and read all of those?
Your colleague over here asked the exact same question. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this is that yes and no. Let me just preface it by that, and let me unpack that answer. Okay. So one thing that we can do is this page. See, it's 221 right over here. I can just assign page 221 for the student. Okay. What that's going to do is that in the assignment, when it's time for you to log in, I'm going to find Jane Doe. Okay. It'll flag just this page for you, so you don't have to go through all 221 pages, okay? You'll just go down the line of the questions, and you'll find this answer, make your commentary, this answer, and go down. So the best parallel I can make for you is, let's just say you had a stack of alphabetized papers in your class, okay? You'd go through, answer this, grade it, done pile, and move on to the next one, okay? But it's done in that format, just to kind of maximize your time. But you do have to open up the students.
And the things we were talking about before everybody came, if it's a closed question, then that's answered for us, graded for us.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, all of the student edition questions right over here, these are going to be majority open-ended responses, just as a heads up for you, okay? Now, I will say this. When we assign this reading of the student edition through the Smart Book, all those are closed-ended responses. So it'll grade it for you. Okay? So I want to provide you two options to go through the readings, and I'll let you decide which one is more advantageous. But I will admit my bias is going through the Smart Book, which I'm going to show you right now, because it helps save you time, but also gives you a whole lot more data that you can work from, such as most challenging learning objectives for your whole entire classroom. Okay? If everybody is struggling with this concept, it'll flag that for you so you know that I need to spend a little more time on it. Okay? You have a question? Yes.
For the open-ended ones, when you actually go to grade it, are there success criteria or a rubric or anything with each one, an assumed number of points for each one? Because I noticed that there's a gradebook link here also.
Mm-hmm.
Does it already assign point values to the questions? Do I get to make my own rubric? Like, does it give me an answer key?
There is the answer key.
Okay.
There's certainly the answer key. So much beyond answers may vary.
Yeah.
Okay, which is sometimes can be incredibly frustrating.
Blue, bling, bling,
Yeah.
that would be great,
Yeah. So different questions, depending on the question, will have a different sort of response to it. Okay. There isn't any sort of definitive sort of point value that you always have for a question. Now, a lot of times, when you assign things on out, and I'll show you how to assign things tonight, you can decide how much is this going to be worth. Okay. So you have a little more control over that. I'll say with the assessments, you have even more control at that point. So I can say, chapter examination, I'm going to make all of my questions 1 point. The essay is going to be worth 5 or 10. You can kind of change things up on that end. And then I will say where I see the most rubrics are for the projects. So on a scale of 1 to 4, 0 to 4, 0 to 5, that's where you get those sort of more over breakdowns.
I just wasn't sure about I don't want to say the efficiency of grading this, but in another program we have, the grading the written responses is completely a nightmare. I can't stand it. So I was hoping, it makes me twitch just to think about achieve responses. So the written response part, I just want it to be as user-friendly on the teacher end as well.
Sure, and I will say this. I am always on your side for every single teacher in terms of you have oftentimes a very aggressive caseload, and you have to do oftentimes a lot of grading. Okay, so I will say this. I think about assigning work through the SmartBook, and I'll show you what that looks like right now to kind of help give you some time back on your end when you have the need or the desire to have more open-ended responses. I want you to pick and choose and be judicious about when you want to assign a graded assignment, okay? Sure. So let me actually put this in context right now, okay? Let me back away from the student edition right now, and I want to open up the SmartBook, which lives adjacent to your student edition. Okay? By the way, am I done at 6:30?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm in California time zone. Okay. So I'll cover in 30 minutes. Okay? I know. Changes. Getting messed up with that. Okay? All right, so when you open up the SmartBook, okay? When you open up the SmartBook, it's going to ask you, how do you want to proceed? As a student, you have, do you want to start off with the readings, which is on the left, or do you start with questions on the right? Okay? Which one do you want to start off with? Okay, so I'm going to go through the readings right now. Okay? And there's no difference. Okay? Just personal preferences. Okay? One thing I'm going to share with you is when you scroll through, okay, and I'm just going to do a very quick sort of cursory kind of walkthrough, just scrolling on down, you're going to see how the student edition is and will be highlighted in yellow. Okay, so scroll down until you get to see some yellow highlights. Okay?
Highlighted yellow, I missed that part.
So what's highlighted in yellow is literally what you need to read right at this given moment. Okay? So this also helps your students with, especially our more fragile readers in our classrooms. It focuses their on what they need to read. Okay? Because case in point, if I give you this book and say I need you to start reading it, that can be pretty intimidating, right? Yeah. Especially to a middle school student, sometimes even a high school student, even a college level student. Okay? But I'm going to take this idea and make it a little bit more manageable. That's where the highlights come in handy. So now, student, I go through, and you should see on the left-hand side of the screen, see where it says concept right over here? Just literally click where it says concept, okay? And what's going to happen is that the system is going to now move your students and train their eyes to go to what they need to focus on even more so, okay? So now that highlight is blue, I'll scroll through. Go to my next topic, or next concept rather, and goes through the entire student edition. Okay? Now, after about 10 or 15 minutes, the questions button is going to illuminate for you. So go to my questions right over here. And the first time you log in, it'll give you this tips button. Okay? But now, the power of the SmartBook right over here. Okay? Here you have your multiple choice questions that are auto-graded for you. Okay? And the system is going to assess your student knowledge of the readings based on their correct or incorrect answers, the time it takes for them to respond, and then finding their confidence level down below. Okay? And what's going to happen is that if, let's just say, as a student, I'm not confident to answer this question, and I'm being very, very frank with the system, you can click the reading button on the right. It'll take you where the question is, and that system will take that into consideration. The student needs to see this one more time. Okay? So I'm going to answer the question. I'll probably be wrong. Okay? Okay. I didn't say medium. Okay? Oh no, I'm wrong. Okay? All right. Need help? Okay? Read about the concept right down below. Okay? All right. Now I'll keep going through. Okay? Now, if you get more than 2 or 3 wrong in a row, it'll prevent you from answering any further questions, and it'll say politely, you need to go back and do the readings a little bit more closely. Okay? And then once again, the system takes that into consideration. It goes back and gives your students additional opportunities to see these questions. Okay? So having said that, I've given you 2 options for assigning readings tonight from the student edition. Okay? You can go through the first way, which is just giving the book. You have to do a lot of grading, I'll be honest with you. Those questions. Okay? This way, it maximizes time in the book. 1, 2, it grades it for you. Okay? I admit my bias, but I would kind of go through this route right over here. Okay? Let me give you all a couple minutes to kind of play around with the SmartBook, and I hope that pilot, you will take advantage of this. Okay. Just on the left-hand side of the screen, just click where it says next concept, next concept. Okay. Luckily tonight I'm staying here. I don't get into much. All right, teachers. In the interest of time, I got roughly about 20 minutes left with you, and I want to make sure that you have some practical application of tonight. I need to show you how to assign and grade work. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do right now, okay, is let me log out of this demo account and let me log back in as my teacher. There's a couple things I want to share with you tonight. I think I might have done this in U.S. history. All right. First things first that I'm going to share with you is in the upper right-hand corner, and this is when you get your own teacher accounts. Okay? When you get your own teacher accounts, you'll find your name. You can go to teacher right over here on the right. Actually, I'm sorry, it's manage account. Go to manage account. Your personal info, yada, yada, yada. Most importantly, down at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see where you can link up your own Google account, right down below. Okay? And then also when you assign work, there will be a space if you want to share it with Google Classroom, too. Okay? Okay? So ultimately, when you get your own, when you do get your own accounts, and yes, you certainly will be accounts.
Loretta is taking care of that.
We lock this feature for the demo. Okay, so you won't see that there, but just as a heads up, when you get your own accounts. Okay, all right. So I'll just cancel out of this right now. Okay, and so let me show you how to assign work. Okay, so when I assign work, okay, I'll go through. Let's say browse the course. Okay. And I will assign something just at random. Okay? Go to your lesson. Okay. Lesson resources. And let's say I want to assign the student edition. Okay? I'm going to click the assign button. Okay? Okay. So click the assign button. Okay? Now when you click the assign button, you can alter the name, not completely necessary. I think the start date and due date is straightforward. I don't have to unpack that. Okay? And then below that, allowing late submissions, that's a personal preference for you. Okay? You get additional 30 days after the due date. Okay? But most importantly, when I want to assign, this is just the book. Okay? Notice where it's an ebook. Okay? Okay? And so if I just want to assign just this page alone, I can scroll through and see exactly which questions go onto this page. Okay? answer the questions down below. Okay? This also serves as a facsimile of what you can expect to see when it's time for you to grade that student edition. Okay? All right. So you know what? That's good. Just page 58 is fine, okay? But if I needed to, 58 through 60, you can set your start page and your end page too. Okay? All right. Okay. Close ebook. Okay. Do I want to give this to every single student, or I can pick and choose who I want to give it to? Okay. This goes back to your question. The graded or the ungraded here, the points possible. And you can also select this and give this out to multiple classes too. Okay? So it's just a one-stop shop. Okay? And then when you're done, click assign, and then it goes on out. Okay? So that's one way. Okay? The other thing that I'm going to share with you, and this is most advantageous, is how to assign the smart book. Okay? And then I'll show you what the grading looks like. Okay? All right. So when it's time for you to assign the smart book, this is going to be a little bit different. Okay? Don't assign it from here. Okay? Don't assign it from here, but go through assignments on the left. Okay? And you can physically do this right now too. Okay? So I want you to like this. Okay? This is a big takeaway of tonight. Okay? When you assign the readings and assign it from the smart book, assign it from assignments on the left. Okay? Now, go where it says add assignment on the left. Okay. And what I'm looking for is SmartBook 2.0 down at the very bottom of the screen. Okay, we'll click SmartBook. All right.
She went rogue, so she cannot help her because that was the rule.
You need to find the bar on the side and get to assignments.
It's okay, guys.
Okay.
I'm not a socialist.
No, but you've done everything right. Now I know I will say this. No, I will say this. The civics book is our latest book to be finished up. So the smart book might not be there yet, just as a heads up, okay? But I'm just going to go back one more time. You did everything right. That assignment. It just might not be there yet. So I'll also say the Spanish book isn't complete yet for civics, okay? Because it's a 2024 copyright. For the other two resources, which has the 2023 copyright, all that is done. Okay, so if you just went through any one of the other books, you'll find what I'm talking about. Okay, just as a heads up. Okay, so I click on Smart 2.0, right over here. Okay. Click on it. Okay. Now, when you are assigning the smart book, it's going to ask you, do you want to? Is this a new assignment? So the topic of the Great Wall of China for the first time, or is this a review assignment? Okay. Because you can also use the smart book as a way to reteach opportunity and kind of recap before we take a chapter or even a midterm or even a final. Okay. So I'm going to create a brand new assignment right now. I'll click the assignment. Okay, new assignment. Okay. Now I'll scroll down, and now just pick which topic you want to look at. Okay. So let's just say I'm going to move on over into
Revolutions and Empires.
Sure. Okay.
Topic 18.
Yeah, okay. So in this one, migration, industry, and urban society, okay? Okay. Scroll down, just click one topic and click continue, okay? Now, while you're on this screen here, in the upper left-hand corner of the page, you're going to see your assignments. Now, this happens to be a high school book, so don't be too alarmed. If I was reading this whole entire chapter or topic in one sitting, it would take me between 113 and 169 minutes to read everything, okay? That's too much, okay? Now, let's make this much more approachable, okay? What I'm going to start doing is I'm just kind of whittling down this number. So I am going to remove lessons right now. Start removing it. And you're going to see this number begin to drop, okay? So tonight, we're just going to read lesson 1. Okay? Okay? All right. You know what? We'll read lesson 1 and lesson 2, okay? So between lesson 1 and lesson 2, it's now only going to take me 16 to 23 minutes, okay? Which is much more approachable than the 160 minutes I just gave a couple moments ago. Okay. Now, if you want even more specificity, click on the arrow in front of the check, and you can also move different topics as well, so you have even more control over the readings that you're doing tonight. Okay? Sure.
Click on the arrow.
Click on the arrows in front of the topics. Okay? So I'll open this up.
And I could say.
Drop on down. And so now I can remove these questions here, and you have the sample questions right over there as well. Okay? All right. But you know, between 16 and 23 minutes, I think is pretty reasonable for my students tonight. Go down to continue. Okay. And then now you walk through everything. So when it comes up, you give your assignment name, start date and end date. Okay. And then finally, you can share with Google Classroom. Okay. All right. Okay.
Share with Google Classroom.
Okay. So any questions about how to assign the student edition as well as how to assign the smart book? Okay. This tonight is the biggest takeaway that I want to leave you with, is how to assign out the smart book. Okay? All right. If there's no, yes, question.
Way back. So is the smart book available in Spanish also?
Smart book is only in English, if I'm not mistaken. Smart book is only available in English.
And are paper copies of the Inquiry Journal available in Spanish?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's on the list, but this is a brand new program,
Right.
and so first priority is always
Right.
English. So I actually had that question just earlier today with another district, and I know it's a known need, and we're hoping that that we will get that. But at this point, it is only print.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, in the last roughly 10 minutes that I have with you, let me show you what the grading looks like. Okay? So let me see my assignments.
Now we're going to grade. We're going to grade it.
Yes.
So after, oh, go ahead, Carrie.
Sorry, I'm sure, I know Kevin mentioned this, and I know, but there's so much information. So with the Spanish resources, when you are in your topic, there's like there's like, your lesson plans, resources. Spanish resources are listed there as well.
Yeah, so it's literally at the bottom, towards the bottom of your sheet, okay? All right, so when it's time for you to grade, okay, you can go underneath your assignments roster right over here, okay? And this one, I believe I had a student do this previously, okay? All right, so you'll see here you have your students and who actually did what, okay? So out of the 5 students that I have, Bell Hooks was the only person to do their homework, okay? So I've got the date and the time of Bell Hooks' submission. I haven't graded it yet. And you click the view right over here, okay? Now I'm just looking at Bell Hooks' responses to the actual student edition, okay? So I'll scroll through, okay? Right to the page, exactly. That's what I assigned on out, okay? Scrolling through, the check for understanding, okay? And that's Bell Hooks' response right over there, okay? Scroll down further, scroll down, that's her response as well, okay? Then when it's all said and done, okay, you can go down the right-hand side of the screen, add any notes, but you can also give your points right here to the right as well, okay? All right. So 2 ways that you can go, okay? We're just looking at the assigning out the readings, okay? All right, 9 minutes left with you. Let's finish on up 2 things. I want to make sure that you see, once again, the roster. Even though I showed it, I'm going to show it to you one more time to how to set up the Lexile level for your students. I think that's a big takeaway. And then we'll finish on up by assessments, and we'll call it a night, okay? Okay? All right. So first things first, let's go to roster right now. So we will auto roster all of your students into the system, which is really great, okay? Most importantly, Click the kebab or frosty, whatever you want to call it. Okay? And now you can edit your student. Okay? When you edit the student, and you probably have some students. Maybe you have some students in the demo account. Maybe I'm just look over your shoulder. Okay, perfect. So click the kebab right over here, the 3 dots. Okay, and you can go ahead and edit student right now. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Edit student. Scroll down to the very bottom of the screen, and you will see your ability to change out the Lexile level for your student. Okay. So in a word, you can set it, and the whole year will be set up for your students. Okay, so that's number 1. Okay. The other thing that you can also do is you can also emulate the student. So in case that you want to see what this looks like from the student perspective, there's that button right down below. Okay. All right. Yes, miss.
I noticed I can change the instructional level as well as the Lexile. What's the difference between those? I mean, why are there 2 different choices? Does that one affect the questions, the other affect the text? Or, I mean, I get Lexile, but then if I leave the Lexile at on level and change to instructional level to approaching, like what difference does that make?
That's certain assignments. So like in your teacher's edition, I don't know if you remember, there's a space that's for like approaching grade level readers, on grade level, beyond level. That goes back to those reading kind of strategies for your students. The Lexile level is, as I said, the best bread and butter because that's giving you your readability at Lexile level. That's much more approachable. Okay. All right. All right, let's finish on up tonight with going through assessments. So go through assessments. And the nice thing about your assessments, teachers, like I said, everything in your assessments is customizable. Okay? So here, you can pick, let's say, your topic. So I'll say, migration, industry, and urban society. Open that up. Okay. You have all of your quizzes for each individual lesson. And then the last 3 is what I want to talk about. Okay. Form A and Form B. Okay. So Form A and Form B, that is assessing your chapter. Form A, as a heads up, it's much more approachable. So think of the acronym or the mnemonic, A, approachable. A, approachable. Okay. So A, there's going to be a heavier emphasis on multiple choice questions, matching, closed-ended responses. In a word, we'll grade it for you. Okay. Form B, heavier emphasis on open-ended responses or DBQs or essays. Okay? Neither one is better nor worse, they're just different. Okay? Once again, going back to finding the reading smart book, what do you okay, and you can always pick and choose and add and remove questions. Okay? Final thing is TEQ, which is technology question, just much more tech-enhanced questions that would give your students additional advantages for high-stakes examination. Okay? All right. Open up any one of the quizzes that you like. Okay? You can preview it. Okay. I'm in a quiz. Okay. Open up a quiz right now. Okay. Yeah. Click preview. Find your question, you open it up. If I need to kind of take a look at, DOK, if you're interested in that on the right-hand side of the screen, it'll show that per question. Okay. But then when you also take a look at this whole entire quiz, there's an edit button that gives you that opportunity to edit the whole quiz. Okay. All right. So if you just want to take a look at what this would look like, you can click Student Preview.
Gives you DOK level.
First page is instructions, so you can just say, bypass that. It just says, don't use your, hopefully you have a good internet connection. So if you can click Start Assignment.
It'll show the DOK.
Okay. And here's the nice thing about this is the tools. You have a highlighter, a notepad, a line reader, which is helpful if I have like a long document, and then the text-to-speech feature. Okay. Okay. All right, teachers. Any other questions that you have for this evening before I show you the final thing, which is additional supports? I know I gave you a lot in 90 minutes. I know I gave you a lot. Okay. Where I want to go right now. I want to back up for a second. I'm going to find the help button. Okay. Okay. The last thing I'm going to share with you is just continuing ongoing support. Okay. So in the upper right-hand corner of the page, when you find your name, the icon, there's a help button. Okay. Go to your help. Okay. And there's the teachers getting started right over here. Okay. Now. Okay. Here's this core math, impact, social studies 2023. Right over here. Okay. And so what I would normally cover in an all-day training, you'll find PD basically modularized out right over here for you. Okay? So start, dashboard, grades, assessments. Okay?
And that's through the help.
Correct. Okay. Go through the help button. Go. Do you need to find this one more time for you? Yep. Okay. Okay. So here I went to the help button. Okay.
Getting started.
Teachers, getting started, product navigation. Okay. And then on the right-hand side, underneath all other programs, second to last, Social Studies 2023. Let me know when you find that. 2023. Okay, I heard you have a question. Oh, I have a question. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. So, okay. Yeah. So that's the chat feature. Okay. Okay. All right, teachers. We are right at time. Are there any final questions that you have for us tonight? I'll think about it on my airplane home. I appreciate the offer tremendously. Thank you. Sure. Really? That's really, really kind to hear. That's good. I appreciate that. You made my day too. Okay. Your question, yes? Mm-hmm. I think it's much more of an internal conversation.
Right, talk about that. Yeah, right now, all of the live teacher editions and teacher subscriptions are in the account, and whoever knows how to, get your kids online. And then we just emailed our integration team to add additional licenses, so you will have both 6th and 7th grade if you need them. Yeah, so Loretta, for you, just as you're assigning for the 7th grade pilot teachers, give them both US and World. And tomorrow that should be, I would usually, unless something is wrong with the person that I emailed, it should be live tomorrow for you to assign out.
We do have one of our teachers that teaches 6, 7, and 8. Vicki, are you doing 6, 7, and 8?
Well, no, I teach 7th and 8th, but 7th grade needs the 6th grade.
Oh,
So do 6, 7, 8?
can we assign all 3?
Am I allowed to pilot more than one grade level? Because I'd love to just dive into this to both. That's the real question.
Yeah, so we just need to make sure we have enough licenses. We'll let you know.
That's what I'm saying, will my 8th graders get dumped into it?
I will do that. The candy canes are for her kids, not her, right? See it, make it big. Thank you. For the highest growth, yeah, I saw that. Good for her. Excited for her.
Kevin, are
Yes.
you finished?
I am. The only thing that I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is leave my email address.
Yeah. So people. Good job. Kevin would like to leave you his email address.
For sure save this because he's my phone a friend. If you have a question that I can't answer, I go to Kevin. So I also have, I think, most of the pilot teachers' email addresses. And I'll follow up with, we have a Padlet that has like correlations, short videos, all of those kind of things. You got a lot tonight, but it's a lot to process. Yeah. So for backup, I'll send a follow-up that has a link to videos, and I'll copy Kevin also, so you have his email too. But yeah, definitely save that.
Okay, so just so we're clear on dates, I'm gonna move into the final agenda item here. Your pilot officially begins January 2nd. So when we come back, right, I want you to start your pilot right away. And I think we also are doing a mid check-in, like a week and a half after you start, just to pull us together in a Google Meet or a Zoom to say, we can do this, we can't do that. We were able to do this successfully, help with this, right? So we're not just gonna throw you in and not come back to you, right? HMA, or McGraw-Hill, sorry. Sorry about that.
That's a dirty word.
I'm
just kidding.
Is going to make sure that they continue to check in. So we'll do a mid check-in, and then we'll do kind of a final check-in before you wrap up. Okay?
And we're going through the 31st?
You are going through January 27th. Yeah, I mean, the next time we meet again is the 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll finish on the 31st. I will be sending you a pilot rubric. Okay, just like main things: user accessibility, student friendliness, teacher friendliness, couple other things that I want you just to measure and give feedback on, and you'll do the same thing with the second pilot.
Do we have something that we could give to the kids at the end? Just saying, you know, like.
We cannot survey the children. Okay? Okay, and with that, I'm going to ask that we adjourn at 6:34.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay,